Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not Brant, you may have noticed that. My name is Adam Burns. I'm the MC for the CIO Summit, which is a gathering of senior executives taking place within CeBIT. We've got two breakout panels on this main stage. This one today, which is called Catching Up with Consumerization, the Mobile Challenge, and then one tomorrow at 3:15 as well. So, what are we going to be talking about? Well, I'll let you know now as we get our panelists ready and prepare some drinks and water and everything for them. So, as the tide of consumerization continues its rapid rise, CIOs find themselves with an unenviable task, combining security, usability, infrastructure and resource into one effective mobile strategy. Our question for the panel is this: how do you turn adversity into advantage? Our panel should know big companies, big workforces and big challenges. So if you welcome them now, please. They are the CIO for G4S Risk Management, the leading integrated security and outsourcing group, Mr. Tim Grieveson, who's a lovely looking chap. Be here in a minute. There we go. The CIO for the Hungarian organisation at GDS, Suez, the French multinational electric utility company, Balázs Rukkaye, and VP of IT for Depois Since, the orthopaedic and neurosurgery arm of Johnson & Johnson, Mr. John Alvarez. And to get this conversation started at the end, please welcome the IT executive advisor for IDC, the global market intelligence firm, the excellent Mr. David McNally. Ladies and gentlemen, your panel.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here, and good afternoon. So let's just jump right into the topic of mobility. First, we've introduced my panel here, and we're going to hear some real-world insights from CIOs and senior IT executives. So let's talk about consumer mobility. We know it's pervasive, but we're still learning just how pervasive it is. I picked up this fact from the CeBIT infographic yesterday that 99% of all internet access is via mobile devices in Kenya. And this is a holiday picture I took a few weeks ago on safari in Tanzania. And this Maasai elder is talking on his phone. And so I asked through the interpreter what he talked about on his mobile device, because this is an area that has no electricity, but actually fairly good cellular service. And he told me that he was talking about his new grandson. Family is very important to them. And also he was asking the elder from another village where his livestock was grazing and whether or not he had seen any lions. So I think, not unlike yourselves, this is a bit of personal and business conversation using mobility. And insights from IDC research then. We have been polling the use of bring your own devices, accessing business applications for several years now. We've seen the percentage grow to the majority of use and access from mobile devices for business apps. And we see that leveling off in 2017, but growing to almost 80%. And we also are predicting the growth of BYOD smartphones at a compound annual growth rate of 30% through that period. So, this is a huge growth, and I was very interested to bring these statistics together with this panel. So let's see if we can validate our statistics and hear from our panelists about what's going on in their organization. So, I'd like to give each of you the opportunity. Tell us a bit about your business and how the nature of your business and your workforce is shaping the use of mobility in the enterprise. Let's start with Tim.
Thank you very much indeed, David. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'd also like to say good afternoon to everybody listening out on the World Wide Web as this is streamed. I've brought my iPad with me so I can tweet as we go along as well. Yeah, I mean, G4S is a very large solutions provider operating truly on a global scale. We operate in over 125 countries. We employ over 625,000 people globally. So, clearly we are a global business. A lot of that business is conducted in a mobile way. The part of the organization that I work in specifically, it works and operates in complex, low infrastructure, high threat environments. So places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Sudan, Somalia, places you typically wouldn't want to go on holiday, but you know, we're there to help organizations manage their risk from everything from close protection through to mine ordnance, through to travel management. Specialist training looks after training ex-service personnel to become a close protection officer. For me, mobility is really important. It's absolutely about enabling the business to operate and work, but it's also about doing that in a safe, secure manner and making sure that the right information is delivered to the right person at the right time, but also looking at delivering it at the right cost.
Okay, so the security needs of your firm really preclude a bring your own device strategy. Is that right?
Not really, no. I mean, we do have a bring your own disaster policy, and I use that sort of, you know, quite loosely. If it's not done properly, it can be a disaster. So for me, it's about aligning it to the business objectives before you even start deploying the technology. Make sure you've got the right technology, yes, but make sure that you're trying to deliver something in the right way. And the way that we deal with that, David, is we separate the corporate network from what I call the welfare network to enable a convergence of or a separation of security.
Okay, interesting. Balash, so what about Gulf Suez and use of mobility?
Hi, everyone, and thanks, David. So we are operating in a very different environment as Tim's business, while GDS Suez is one of the world's largest utility company. It has several business units, from gas supply, from nuclear power plants, to the marketing and sales company, waste management, and water supply management. So it's really a huge and diverse organization. I'm managing the Hungarian entities of this organization, and we have in Hungary also a power plant, and we have several different other business units, from gas distribution to our marketing and sales on a USB market and on a free market version as well. So go to the mobile devices, because this roundtable is all about the mobile devices. Yes, we utilize them in different sections. First of all, we have the workforce who is maintaining the pipes, and the gas pipes could be very dangerous if it's not maintained correctly and on time. So they have a mobile device, and they have special application, they connect it to the network, they view the maps on it and things like that. On the other hand, we have customer offices around the country, and due to local legislation, we have to keep them open 2 times a week for 4 hours. So there are a semi-mobile customer office or workforce sitting over there, and they are utilizing a totally different technology while they are sitting beside an SAP or an ERP platform, and they are using more like a conventional office kind of environment. And of course, beside that, there are the management of the company who are mainly knowledge workers, and we are applying for them a home working policy and a total kind of flexibility and freedom where and how they are going to contribute towards the result of the company.
Thank you. And John, what about mobility at Dupuis Synthes?
Yeah, okay. So I'm with Johnson & Johnson. Within Johnson & Johnson, you have 3 divisions. One is the consumer division, you know, the baby shampoos and the mouthwater, which we all know Johnson & Johnson about. Then you have the medical device business, and you have the pharma business. And I'm within the medical device business, and within that, we have the orthopedics business. And orthopedics has to do with everything to do with the human skeleton. So we make implants for, you know, bone fractures, spine, hips, knees, etc. And we are a division, orthopedics division is 20,000 people globally, of which 8,000 have a customer-facing role. So especially in this customer-facing role, mobility is absolutely key. we sell to hospitals. And so to give you an example, there's a lot of waiting time because surgeons normally don't have time to sit in meetings and to listen to product presentations. So it's very important that the small time available, the sales people can support and make the pitch to the surgeons. So mobility is absolutely key. We have three categories of users. We have the office-based users, we have the commercial users, and then we have two types in the commercial space. We have agents, and they bring their own device. They're kind of, companies on their own. And then we have the internal direct sales force where we provision the equipment for. Typically today, they're using three devices, the tablets, the smartphones, and the PCs. Okay? So absolutely key to run our business.
And so high use of mobility with the 8,000 people in the field, and are those corporate division or provision devices or individual?
So as I
provision?
said, if we look at those 20,000 people, they are divided in three categories.
Yeah.
There's a sales force, which are agents.
Yeah.
They're own companies, right? Mm-hmm. And they sell. And then we have a direct sales force. And the agents are connecting to the J&J network, but using their own devices, own PCs, right?
So, so interesting. Three very different businesses and use cases. And so we touched on devices. And let's talk about, apps and, and how this aspect of consumerization is going to affect security. We think that, we're beyond the BYOD. You saw our statistics. Maybe as Balázs told me, the blue-collar workers in Hungary are not buying smartphones, but lots of people are. And but then you have your corporate provision devices. And what can you tell me about what control you have over apps on those corporate provision devices, and whether or not people are really bringing their own apps on your devices? Tim, you want to kick us off there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't actually make any difference whether it's a consumerization product or whether it's a corporate product. For me, it's really around classification of the data. It's making sure that you deliver the data to the right device. For me, it's less about the device. It's more about the data. It's more about making sure that you understand the business objectives. You understand what you want to do with the data and what you can and can't share. So it's about classification rather than the app and the device endpoint. And we've made a quite clear distinction by that, by having the separation of the corporate network and the welfare network. I think you've got to embrace bring your own device, because if you don't, it'll infiltrate your business, without you knowing about it. So security for me is really around enabling rather than disabling.
Okay, Balázs?
I also can connect to this wave, because this bring your own device, for me, it's a little bit misleading kind of expression, because we are talking about device, but the problem and the complication is not coming out from the device itself. And not even the ownership of the device and who's belong to the data on the device and so on. Those are minor questions beside the question what you mentioned, Tim. It's the data, how you are going to treat the data on it and how you are going to be able to manage the data on it. In Suez there are different practices of trying to solve this problem. The group itself trying to build a virtualized application platform for all the corporate application means that you can use it from any of your device. In some cases, maybe this is a very costly exercise. Even the virtualization of the apps, and after that to keeping up and running all the infrastructure behind. The other concept is when the company is going to provide devices with a certain, we call it managed devices, with certain management rights on it, and those devices more or less are the old school kind of way how we are providing equipments for the employees. This is very good when you have workers who don't really want to buy a device. I don't know whether you sit in an organization when each and every of your workers would really bring their own device. I don't feel this kind of intention, because they don't want to bring their own, they want the company to provide them the things, even the top management in some cases. And the last or the third kind of platform, when we create a framework when they can bring their own device with certain restrictions on it. So they are able to download the data on it, but we are able to delete the whole device or write the whole device. This is the third kind of approach.
Okay, so you're taking more of a containerization approach to managing the device.
I would not say that the containerization, it's more like that you have a special app which manages the devices and separate your private life and your corporate life. For me, this is not really the way to follow. The thing is that it really restricts the users in some cases. The usability, even the usability of the device can be very deeply restricted with the containerization. So that's why we try to utilize the opportunities of Windows 8.1, which just recently deployed in our organization. And this platform gives us an opportunity to use the corporate things and personal things beside each other, and with some kind of monitoring of how they are using their personal kind of things on the corporate device.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll come back to that. John, how do you, do you exert a lot of control over the apps that are installed on your corporate devices?
Yeah. So first of all, the healthcare industry is a very heavily regulated industry. You know, data security and protection is a big thing in Johnson & Johnson. So this is forming a challenge, because in our industry, it's all about patient safety, right? Patient safety, you know, and it can determine, if you're not careful with data, sharing data, to shut down the business in the extreme situation. However, you know, we have this phenomenon of hundreds of thousands of apps which people can download. We have a MDM application which monitors that, of course. But it's a challenge. And the other challenge is also that on the end of the day, as we see that more and more end users use the phone or the tablet for private purpose, you know, how do we manage that? How do we compensate for that? Is it, you know, something somebody brings in and he pays it himself, or, you know, it's a company provisioned? So that's another thing which is going on. To come back on security, Johnson & Johnson is 130,000 people, and they go every year through a certification process, which we call Information Protection, Asset Protection Program, which, you know, you need to go to training and you need to certify yourself. So it's a very big topic in J&J, and with this bring your own device, the challenge is getting bigger. Yeah, and we have not yet figured out how we're going to solve this.
So interesting. So, you know, with the not just BYOD, but, you know, the use of personal applications, the use of social media, you know, at IDC we see that, you know, this is the new normal in mobility, that the security perimeter has moved well beyond the enterprise, and created a lot of surfaces and opportunities for security issues and real management challenges for IT executives. And, you know, you can see that there are some, based on the business needs and the mobility, the use of mobility in the enterprise, there are some, you know, perfectly valid but very different approaches to this. You know, that said, we see, you know, over 400 million threat-capable mobile devices and 1.3 million unassured apps. And so you know, again, you know, the enterprise perimeter is moved, and there are, you know, potential and real attacks at all steps in this process. You know, from you know, the individual, at the device, at the application, and at the network. So so let's go back to Tim, and you know, so how are you thinking, you know, broadly about security and you know, how this is changing in your business?
I question whether there is a perimeter. For me, the way that devices are now becoming more mainstream, you can spend huge amounts of money on the perimeter, but actually the threat's already inside. You just don't know about it. And by that I mean it's awareness. It's about educating people to make sure that they recognize what their responsibilities are. And I think joining the home life to the business life, I think, is quite an important part, because people might be more secure of their personal data, like their credit card number, but they may be less secure about their company personal data, or the other way around. So I think it's about education. I think it's about, yes, spending you know, hard-earned dollars on the perimeter, the firewalls, the switches, but I give that and take that as the norm. I think that should be good, but it's not the only thing. I think it's about treating security in a holistic approach. So looking at the physical security, looking at the technology, but looking at people, you know, social engineering, looking at educating those people. And I think the awareness program, and we do something similar in our organization, but it's not just the people that use IT, it's also the security guard, you know, who may not come across IT, but is looking for things that are likely to expose the organization, and how to deal with those. You know, so it's absolutely about security by design, right, end to end.
And do you have, and you mentioned that you have two networks, do you have some compensating capabilities within your corporate network?
Sorry?
In terms of how you deliver network services?
Yeah, I mean, I can't give too much away, but we separate the private welfare network completely from the corporate network. We monitor both. We inform the employees we monitor both, but the restrictions placed upon them on the welfare network is less. You know, so that is the bring your own device. On the corporate network, it's a choose your own device strategy. So you can have whatever device you want, as long as it's one of the ones we've selected for you. We do adopt containerization. You know, as I said previously, you know, it's less about the device for me, it's about the data. And for bring your own device to be successful, or choose your own device, it's really around analyzing the business needs. You know, bring your own device is great. You know, resist the hype. It might not be the right thing for everybody. You know, it might be better ways of delivering data to people. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Balash, maybe you can take us down to the next level in terms of, you know, how you see Microsoft and, you know, your, you know, Windows 8.1 deployment, you know, kind of playing a major role in your mobility management, and also, you know, kind of a, you know, counterpoint to, you know, Tim's strategy vis-a-vis security.
Yes, this is, we migrated from XP to Windows 8.1, and this created a framework or a platform which led us to utilize different tools to protect the data. And for me, I totally agree with you that the first step is about education. And many of the questions could be solved via procedures and for example, a 745 help desk could be there, and personal interaction when there is a threat, and direct help to the employees. It could solve a lot of things. So for me, the data security is not a restrictive kind of things. Tools to monitor, tools to secure the data, and business procedures which helps the employee to overcome the issues. So in this composition, Windows 8.1, it's really something I found it very conceptually well designed for this new era of IT, when you have separate or different devices. So first of all, we encrypt the data, and it's a domain-integrated encryption. We use, instead of having two different networks, we are trying to challenge ourselves whether we can eliminate the local area network at all. So, for example, for the small offices, for customer offices, we use the direct access technology, which is a two-factor authentication, and this direct access technology goes via a public internet to build a secure channel, and for each and everyone. Because there is no difference for me if I work from here, from Hanover, with this technology, or from home, or from my desk in my office. So in this case, really, shall I maintain a huge MPLS network or not? Is it feasible to run each and every application over the internet or not? Those are the questions, and we are progressing with this new technology toward this direction. So we are about, let's say, midsummer, we are going to eliminate the MPLS network from the small offices and put everything onto the internet, and not utilizing a very complex or complicated technology from user perspective to get into the company network, but they are going to work on the same kind, with the same kind of rights than they would sit in the local area network.
Tim, did you have something on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that approach. The approach assumes, though, good connectivity. It's a little bit like the cloud. Generally, you have to have good connectivity. Unfortunately, a lot of the areas that we operate, there isn't good connectivity. I mean, the picture earlier on showed a picture of someone using the mobile phone. So there may be connectivity in these places, but is it secure? Is the first question. Is it consistent? So that's really the reason that we've adopted a slightly different approach, rather than the martini working, as I call it, which is anytime, any place, anywhere. We've adopted that. We've gone Windows 7. We haven't gone Windows 8 because I'm not yet, convinced it's secure. Windows 9, by the way, will be great. I suggest that we always miss one. Apologies, Microsoft, if you're in the room. But very much for me, it's about having good connectivity, and that works brilliantly where you can access cloud services and you can access your data. But if 90% of your time it's disconnected, that strategy won't work.
Partially agree, because yes, of course, if you need a great throughput via the network, if you are using some of the cloud applications. But we are using, for mail and messaging, we are using the Office 365 public cloud solution, and there are opportunities to use it on a very low coverage network area. So you can set up and configure the devices on the way that you can use it for basic purposes. Once we are going to move all the, let's say, the personal drive data into the cloud as well, then there is also an option of low bandwidth synchronization. So in this case, those data could also be there and can be shared there, and not even goes down to device because there is a web interface for it. So in some terms, I agree with you, and I remember the good old days of Lotus Notes with a single wired cable in the middle of Africa that you can run a company. So it's a different approach, but for me, that to even create opportunity to join the different technology, join the two kinds of networks, join the rules of how we are going to use internet and the corporate network, then make a separation and make a very strict border. Because our role, I think nowadays, is to give good enough answer to this question for each and every employee.
So, it's interesting. So, John, and maybe we can find a point where we can disagree with both of them at the same time. So it's interesting, though, what Balázs was saying about, Windows 8. How do you see this? First of all, what mobile operating systems do you support in your environment?
We use, we're still at Windows 7, right? We're moving to Windows 7, and we're using basic Apple for all our mobile tablets and phones are iPhones and iPads.
So strictly
OS,
strictly Apple phones.
Yeah. So it's Windows and it's Apple.
Yeah, interesting. So we
And we have some Blackberries which we're phasing out, by the way.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of that's very popular, getting rid of BES servers, right? So it's interesting because we work globally and conduct research globally, and in the United States, Apple devices are very popular. Android, statistically, we see Android devices as taking over. Google Play is now has a greater volumes than the iTunes Store. But it's a regional phenomenon, and we've seen a lot of BlackBerry, in MENA and a lot of Android in Asia Pacific, and predominantly Android. And so, Tim, your corporate devices, what OS?
So for the risk management business, the corporate device is BlackBerry.
Yeah.
We've gone BlackBerry 10, but we do recognise that the shift. So we also use technologies for managing containers on other devices. So one of the nice features about BlackBerry 10, for example, is you can use Android applications. Microsoft don't talk about it, and BlackBerry don't talk about it, and Android don't talk about it, but you can. So we've got a convergence there. But we do have some of our senior execs who like the cool, gadgets of Apple. So we use good technology to secure those particular devices. Again, it's about the data and the email. I don't manage the device, so if the device breaks down, they're responsible for getting another device. But what we do is we make sure that that data that's delivered to the device is secure.
So, Balazs, go ahead, please.
Yeah, we applied almost the same kind of approach. We are just getting rid of the last BlackBerries, and we gave, let's say, for 60-70% for the employees, we gave a Windows mobile phone, which is very seamlessly integrated with all the domain services. And of course, till it's a company device, we are able to manage it or wipe the device remotely. For some of the senior managers, yes, we are still using Apple, but for the Apple, we apply the same policy till it's a corporate device. Then we are able to wipe it remotely if there is a security risk. The thing is that we created a kind of mobile policy framework when we let the employees bring their own device if they want, or if they are not satisfied with the corporate devices. And not having implemented or invested into a containerization kind of solution, we said that, okay, if you want to use your own device, then we keep the rights to wipe that device as well. And if your last picture of your grandmother was on that device, you might lose it. But it's sad, but you have to be aware of, and this roots back to the education.
So, so interesting. So let me, Tim mentioned choose your own device. We've seen this at IDC in our research, where it really is sort of a backlash to the Wild West, as we Americans say. In some organizations where they've started to provision more consumer-based devices, keeping Blackberries, for instance, for your lower end or office workers, and then the iPads, iPhones, or Samsung Galaxy devices for executives or for field sales force, for instance, and really opening up and then basically provisioning devices, applications, and security or access based on roles. So, Tim, you mentioned choose your own device. Is this a reality today, or this is directionally correct? Or
it is a reality. Yeah, it is early days. We've been very, very careful to make sure that we choose the right devices and don't give everybody open rein, because otherwise we've got thousands of devices. Which is why we're saying if it's choose your own device, we fully support the device and everything that goes with it. Whereas it's a bring your own device, you're responsible as the end consumer to manage the device, and we will manage the app. because otherwise my support, as you can imagine, in quite challenging environments where 6 hours is not an uncommon journey back to the office in a secure vehicle, I don't really want to take that headache on. But what I am happy to do is to take on the headache of delivering and streaming the app. So choose your own devices here. I'm moving towards choose your own data. Which data to deliver and why?
So interesting. So Balashidi, I'm thinking that you might be looking forward to a policy of choose your own device as long as it runs Windows 8. What do you think?
Partially, yes, because if we want to manage, if we want to have a managed device, I would use a Windows 8.1 kind of platform because it's very seamlessly integrated, and if I give them, from device perspective, a tablet which is part of the domain, managed on totally on the same way as all the domain computers, then it's fine. The question for me, whether this is the right approach, means that we are still talking about the devices. I would not talk about the devices. I would change this word that bring your own device to access your own data. And
choose your own data.
Yeah.
They agree on something, John. Good.
And if you have to create such kind of solutions, let's say, which let you to access your own data, and own data means your private data and your own corporate data to be able to work with, and that's why that for me, yes, of course, we are running on a kind of device independent regime, let's say, so we created everything to be device independent, but not for the reason of building bring your own device club, but to make it easy to maintain. If the PC support goes down and change one of the device, they are not going to take care about saving the data or managing your local file or replicating back something to the server. But we really want to create a really device-independent kind of infrastructure or architecture when we can just plug and play new devices if we want to.
So if I may add to that, I mean, if I look at 2 years ago when the first iPads came, it was, very exclusive, and our CIO, corporate CIO, restricted it. So, no, we cannot do this, too expensive, too risky, etc. Same thing for iPhones. If you look now today, it's a commodity. So I believe, bring your own device and choose your own device is going to come. Whether we like it or not, can rationalize it or not, it's going to come. And especially on the bring your own device, if I look at my company now, I don't see a lot of pull for that at the moment. There's a few hobbyists which, like it. But when I look at the younger population, which we're going to get into the company, more and more these people are used to bring their own device. And they're going to say, what do you mean, corporate laptop? I mean, I bring my own iPad. So that we need to deal with. And the second part is that those devices are more and more used in a mixed situation of business and private, right? So, that's not. So I believe that whether we like it or not, we need to deal with this. It's coming. It's going to come. And we need to get prepared for it. And we need to figure out how we're going to manage this, especially from a security perspective. In my area, security is, I would say, is almost one of the top priorities, how we deal with that. So it's going to come.
Can I add here something that I think everyone in the room remembers the good old days when we started to build the restriction of USB pen drives into the IT security policies, and in many cases this practice is still there, but and everyone is trying to hack it somehow. They are sending the corporate data to their private mails if it's not accessible from home. They are going to use the pen drive even if it was prohibited and things like that. So for me, the solution is not to make a hard restriction or put the stickers on the USB slot, but give the employees the tool which is a bit more controllable. And when I can can let them to work even on their smart TV if they want to. So this is the so not being a restrictive, not create a restrictive world, but even create opportunities of accessing the data.
I mean, I think I said it earlier on, it's about enablement of security rather than disablement. Mm-hmm. You know, I think the security, IT security in the past has done it to itself. It continually talks about locking things down and saying no. It should be about yes, but let's work together on how we enable it. And I'd like to see more business and IT coming together. I hate the word IT in the business because IT is part of the business. But how do we work together to deliver the solutions? And tell me what the business objectives are, and we'll work together to the solution, rather than coming and tell me what the solution is and say, make it work, IT.
Okay, so thank you for that. You know, it really appears as if there's really no perfect solution to you know, balancing, you know, ease of use, freedom of devices, ubiquitous access to both personal and corporate data, you know, while ensuring an appropriate level of security. So a quick yes or no, consumerization and the impact on IT, considering everything that we've discussed, is it a good thing or a bad thing? John?
I think it's a good thing, and it's going to come, because the good thing will be also from a cost perspective. You know, things are going to get, you know, more affordable and cheaper, so that's a good thing. But especially on the security side, we need to figure out how we control it, especially when, you know, your business is heavily depending on that.
Okay. Balash?
It's unavoidable, in fact, and that's why it's very good, because it makes us to think about new solutions and new kind of approaches and figuring out how we can utilize those new technology for the favor of the enterprises.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
I think it's already here. I don't think it's approaching. I think embrace it. If you don't, it'll get there by stealth. The business will bring it without you knowing about it. So I think be aware and work with it.
Very good, thank you. So really 3 different businesses and views on the consumerization of IT, and you know, how to coexist with it and make best use of it. So you know, with that, I'd like to thank my panel. Thank you very much. Great job.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And with that, we're going to go into our lunch break. We're going to be back here in 1 hour. We're going to start with a couple of keynote speakers on game-changing technology at 2:30, and then we're going to wrap up the day with a one-on-one with Mark Shuttleworth about where he's going on Earth and in outer space. See you in